This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the daily exercise of trying to understand President Bush's intentions in the Persian Gulf. Will it take war to get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait? What does the president mean when he says today that he's had it with brutality to Americans in Kuwait? There has been, from the White House this week, a steady increase in the use of fairly violent language about the Iraqi occupation. Is the president trying harder to convince Saddam Hussein he should leave Kuwait peacefully? Or is he preparing Americans for violence? At the White House, ABC's Britt Hume.
Before a political fundraiser outside Washington this morning, the president paused to give reporters fresh assurances that he plans no U.S. military action in the Persian Gulf for the moment.
I'm prepared at this juncture to wait to see if economic sanctions will work at this juncture.
But again today, the president talked of the danger to American hostages, a subject the administration used to play down, but which could provide a legal basis for U.S. military action with or without advance UN or congressional approval.
I am concerned about the lives of Americans held against their will. So are the American people.
He also spoke of the besieged U.S. embassy in Kuwait in words that seemed aimed directly at the patriotic sentiment of the U.S. public, whose support would be vital if war came.
The American flag is flying over the Kuwaiti embassy, and our people inside are being starved by a brutal dictator. And do you think I'm concerned about it? You're darn right I am. And what I'm going to do about it, let's just wait and see. Because I have had it with that kind of treatment of Americans.
And for the first time, the president came close to saying that the sanctions, which have been the core of his policy, are not working.
I wouldn't say that they had not been successful at all, but they certainly haven't driven the man to do what he should have done, which is to get out of Kuwait and reverse this aggression.
Senior officials here say the administration has not given up hope the sanctions will work, but has now begun to prepare for the possibility they will not. Part of that task, they say, is preparing public opinion. It strongly supported the president on the Gulf at first, but since his misadventures with the budget has seemed less certain. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
In Iraq today, as always, it was harder to get inside Saddam Hussein's mind. From the Iraqis today, an offer to the families of foreign citizens being held against their will, come to Iraq and visit them during the Christmas and New Year's holidays. And Saddam Hussein's spokesman insisted again the foreigners were not being mistreated. In Baghdad, ABC's Peter Collins.
Just a day after President Saddam Hussein's government put its troops in a higher state of alert, it brought out its information minister to fire back at Washington's comments about American hostages held at Iraqi strategic sites.
Those guests live in a good condition. They live in some places better than Iraqi families.
America, he said, was talking about hostages because it was looking for an excuse for war. He repeated Iraq's position that it would not start a war, but if that was what America, President Bush, wanted, he would get it.
We get many signals that America is about to take the decision of the war, so we are ready.
Whatever the Bush administration intended with its latest warnings to Iraq, it appears to have had little effect on its official spokesman. Peter Collins, ABC News, Baghdad.
There was another warning of just how bad a Gulf war could be, and it comes from General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of U.S. forces in Saudi Arabia. In an interview with the Atlanta Constitution over the weekend, General Schwarzkopf said a ground war in the desert, in his words, could last a long time and kill an awful lot of people. And there's more evidence today of how Iraq is preparing for war if the battlefield is Kuwait. Actually, not today precisely. We've purchased an amateur video shot 2 weeks ago in Kuwait, and ABC's David Ensor has been showing it to military analysts in Washington today.
The videotape shows heavy Iraqi military equipment heading out of Kuwait City, south, towards the border with Saudi Arabia. Dozens of Soviet-made T-72 tanks and armored personnel carriers. Overhead, a French-made troop transport helicopter. The big self-propelled artillery vehicles, one area, says defense analyst Tony Cordesman, where the Iraqis may have an edge.
It's a French design with very long range, excellent barrel life, and a very, very rapid rate of fire, actually better than any of the artillery weapons we have in the area in terms of rates of fire and range per round.
Analysts also say the Austrian G5 towed howitzer is the best there is. Equipment from all over the world goes by, from Yugoslavia, China. Looking at the tape, U.S. Army intelligence officers noted how disciplined the Iraqis seemed. Every vehicle appears well maintained, spaced out along the road to make attack from the air more difficult. Shots taken by night at Kuwait International Airport show it bristles with Soviet-made surface-to-air missiles intended to shoot down attacking planes. The U.S. already knew Iraq had all the weapons shown on the tape, but the fact that so many of them have been moved south is evidence that driving Iraq out of Kuwait would be more difficult than many had thought.
It's telling us the casualties could be higher. It's telling us we need more firepower. It's telling us the war could last longer and produce more losses.
The tape underscores what U.S. military planners already know. The risks are high. That's why they are sending more troops. David Ensor, ABC News, the Pentagon.
In a moment, we'll have the other news of the day, the possible drug connection to the bombing of Pan Am 103. On the American agenda tonight, volunteers helping themselves as they help others. And